Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moskalensky Show. We right now are having our 10-show special. I think that's pretty cool. I know it doesn't seem like the biggest milestone, but it's actually our first milestone, so heck, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. We have gone through a grand total of 10 shows, if you couldn't tell. And in my view, they've all been good. Some have had more colors, some have had less. But in my view, I like them all. Except for that last one where, my toe felt like it was on fire. But today, no such thing is happening today. It's just all good. Everything's good. Sorry for that little bit of screeching there. That was a window. Everything is pretty much hunky-dory today. So we're going to get right into it in a sec here. I'd like to remind everybody before we go into our first topic, which is going to be shows. I know I really like this topic. I'm going to go back to YouTube and news more frequently pretty soon. Kind of go back to the original thing after this show. But in the meantime, to those of you who would like to call in and talk about shows from now until 3:30 for the next 29 minutes, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Whew. Shows. I know I've been kind of going back and forth with this one in movies recently. And there's a reason for this. I really like these two topics. These are such broad topics, and there's so much to talk about. I mean, where does it begin and where does it end? That's a fantastic question. We can't obviously cover everything, regardless of how long the show goes on, be it until, the point where I am 19 years old and I gotta just completely cut it off. But I just think it's really cool that we've been doing all this sort of stuff and that we've been coming back to other topics and coming up with new topics. I just think it's all cool. We have a really interesting second section, which isn't technically politics. We haven't done this section before in the middle, and our last section is going to be very unique. But this one is more of one of our easier, one of our more lighthearted sections, one of our less controversial ones, kind of to get us going. And a lot of the next couple sections are going to be much more fact and opinion. This is just going to be more general opinion. So the motto, fact is a fact, only if it's fact, and we have those on the Ben Moskalensky Show. That's really only going to apply for our next section. Most of what I'm going to be talking about here is opinion. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about in shows is, and the reason I do this is because lately I've been obsessed with Better Call Saul and Shooter. And oh my gosh, these shows are absolutely amazing. 5-star shows, both of them. I am personally, okay, Breaking Bad, if you know anybody and don't live under a rock, Breaking Bad is one of the most popular shows in modern history. Extremely popular, extremely well rated. I believe I'm actually looking at the ratings right now. Breaking Bad, I'm going to be looking at Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, everything. It's just completely solid. 9.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, 9 out of 10 on TV.com. In my view, it should actually be higher. But Better Call Saul, which was well, it was made after Breaking Bad, but it's actually a prequel in the lore of the show. Better Call Saul is 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb, but 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. And TV.com still gives it a 9 out of 10. It is, I didn't think there was a show. I didn't think the Better Call Saul show could possibly be better than Breaking Bad. Man, oh man, was I wrong. Better Call Saul is probably one of my favorite shows right now. Possibly one of my favorite shows of all time. And so is Breaking Bad, but I like Better Call Saul even more. I don't know how Vince Gilligan did it, but unbelievable. It's just amazing. The show is amazing. I mean, if any of my audience is into more mature shows, I'm going to list off a couple shows here which I cannot recommend to you enough. These 5 shows are some of my favorite shows ever. And this is only starting the list. Fringe, Person of Interest, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and Shooter. I'm going to repeat that list. Fringe, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Person of Interest, and Shooter. These are some of my favorite shows of all time, which have a much more mature theme. And I just don't know. I'm not sure what it is about the show. Because Breaking Bad was a very unique concept. That's possibly one of the things I loved so much about Breaking Bad was they had so many unique concepts and did so many cool things with these unique concepts. Not to mention with amazing talent like Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul, and Vince Gilligan directing and producing. I mean, it's just like such a unique idea which could be used so amazingly for an entire show in the right hands. And trust me, they got the right hands. But Better Call Saul, it seems like such a boring idea. Okay, so spoiler alert, by the way. So we have our lawyer, and he was a really cool character in the show, but he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. He lived in Albuquerque. I guess you can say he started with a little law firm. There's some copyright stuff going on with him because his name is in his last name. His brother is also a lawyer in a different law firm, big law firm. So there could be some legal issues with them. It sounds like just such a boring, plain idea, but they just did it absolutely amazing. Not only is it extremely smart, extremely funny, extremely well acted, and it's an entirely different show. Not only the premise, but the entire everything about it. The mood of the show, not necessarily it's lighter, but it's a lot more comical. It definitely has my favorite character from Breaking Bad as the main character, so I mean you can't go wrong with that. And I'm just not sure what it is. And what is it that makes a show good? Okay, you could say really good acting, but is that it for a really good show? I mean, you look at Breaking Bad, which again, I want this to be on the record. As of yet, I've completely finished Breaking Bad, and I have almost finished the first season of Better Call Saul. Currently, as things are, I slightly prefer Better Call Saul over Breaking Bad, even though they are two different shows completely. You could say that acting is a big part of it, but look at Breaking Bad. There wasn't a single even good actor in that show. Even some of the weakest roles that you think like that just don't matter. Even some of the least relevant, most boring seeming roles were just done so well, let alone the main characters like Walt and Jesse and Skyler. And then you extend it to some of the cooler villains, and like some of the side characters like Saul, Tuco, Gus, another just amazing deal, and Jesse or Aaron Paul. I've never seen acting so good in my entire life. Matthew McConaughey, forget him. Forget any good actor you've ever seen. Aaron Paul, I mean, I'm convinced it's based off a real life story. I'm convinced they were filming Aaron Paul in every part, like as he was actually doing it. It's like documentary footage. That's how good Aaron Paul is in every single part. No slip ups ever. Better Call Saul has one really good character. And I mean really good in terms of acting. And that would be Saul. Everyone else is pretty good. Actually, not even that. The only character who, in my view, is good other than Saul is Mike. But like you look at the girlfriend, she's okay. You look at Hamlin, it's one of the main characters of the show. Okay. Charles, okay. All okay. I still like Better Call Saul. You could say it's because of the story. I already said that Breaking Bad has a much better story, in my view at least. What is it? What compels you to like a show? That is the characters, not the actors, the characters. I was actually thinking about this for a really long time. And I actually saw, as I stated on one of my previous shows, which you can go check out, that I met with Greg Hurwitz. If you'd like, again, go back, watch some of my previous shows to get more info on that. But if you'd like to talk more about stuff on this particular show, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, I'm going to repeat it a bit slower in case anybody missed it. The number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, 24777. Right now, we are going through our 10th show special, which is also going to be 2 hours long, due to the fact that, well, it's 10th show special. I mean, kind of cool if you think about it. I mean, at least for me, it is. Back to it. And again, our current topic is shows. For anyone who doesn't want to call in, sound like an idiot, the current topic is shows. Now, in my view, the thing that makes a show is the characters. Everything surrounding the character or the characters. Now, I'm not specifically secluding this to the main character or the main characters. As in my view, I don't think you can consider Jesse, no, not Jesse, sorry. What I meant, Mike or Gus to be, or Saul to be the main character in Breaking Bad. But they were still some of my favorites. Saul being my favorite of all time, and Gus being my second favorite of all time. And yes, I know how many people will be mad at me due to the fact that I absolutely adore Gus, because so many people hate Gus. But yes, I just love Gus, and you'll see what I mean once you watch Breaking Bad, which is on Netflix, all 5 seasons of it. Amazing show. But everything is revolving around the characters. During Greg Hurwitz's speech here in Bellevue that I attended, a lot of his answers to certain questions, even if they were unrelated to the characters, were about the characters. As an example, I asked a vast majority of the questions because this was right before Journal of the Survivor 2 started. And it's a very similar genre to some of his books, or rather, my favorite of his books being the Orphan X series. And by the way, if anyone's looking for a good read, other than my own books, of course, Orphan X, amazing book. And the sequel, The Nowhere Man, even better. It's my second favorite book of all time. Of all time, no exceptions. Only being beaten by the absolute classic To Kill a Mockingbird. That's the level we're on. That is how good this spy book is. A spy book can only be beaten by one of the biggest classics of all time, being To Kill a Mockingbird. And yes, I adore To Kill a Mockingbird because this was made back in the time when racial equality was actually racial equality. But that's a separate topic. That's a very different topic. But anyways, everything revolves around, and we kind of went off topic, but everything revolves around the character. I asked Mr. Hurwitz, what makes a good action scene? Because I noticed, specifically in Hawker's memoirs, which is, I'd have to say, the best written and the most effort I put into of all my books. And of course, you still have an idiot who left a spam review. But on Hawker's memoirs, I noticed I had these problems in all these books, and most so in Hawker's memoirs, where I didn't notice what I was doing. Because like sometimes I could have an action sequence which I had thrown together in like 45 minutes, and it was just like a heart-racing, mind-accelerating experience that is just something else, just puts you in that world. Whereas sometimes I could spend hours, even days, on an action sequence, and it would just kind of flop on its face. And I'd be like, okay, this is really the best I can do. We'll just skip by this part, get to something else. And I asked Mr. Hurwitz, why is that the case? And he says, your action sequence needs to represent your character and their struggles, or your characters and their struggles. Has anything ever made so much yet so little sense to me? I don't think so. But if you think about it, that is completely the case. If you have some like bunch of trains and cars are exploding, whoa, look at that! It's a skydiving orca whale with machine guns. Whoa! I mean, that's cool. That's cool at first, but it gets old if you're reading an entire book, an entire movie, or an entire show. But in the scenario with other deals where it actually represents your character's struggle, like the actual fight, it actually represents how they're doing in their struggle, be it physical or mental, in the book itself. That's just completely cool, because it gives the reader a kind of sense of awe about how everything is related to itself, but only in a subconscious state. Breaking Bad did this with everything. And again, this all revolves around the characters. Everything revolves around the characters. Even characters revolve around the characters. What I mean by that is, you take one of the things, and this was something that I had reiterated myself, like I was sure I didn't come up with this, but I didn't read this from anywhere. Even though I knew someone else had already done it for sure. And that's true. It's a very old tip. When you are making your antagonists, they need to be a yang to your yin. They need to be the perfect matchup for your protagonist, or it feels wrong. It needs to be someone who is on a different spectrum, like a completely different and paralleling spectrum from your protagonist. your main antagonist, that is, assuming they're going to stay an antagonist throughout your book series. And that just makes complete sense. I mean, if you think about it, if your antagonist and protagonist are very similar people, like they have very similar beliefs, they do things very similarly, it feels less like an antagonist, protagonist, hero, and villain, and feels more like, I don't know, two brothers arguing about something useless. Am I making sense? Probably not. But that's the thing that just floors me, that so many people miss this. This is what you need in storytelling. You need to have characters that match your characters. Take for instance a side character. If it's a side character, let's say a good side character. What's a good example? Like Zoe from Journal of the Survivor. They need to have parallels with your main character, but without being a copy, or else it feels like that character is underrepresented or your main character is overrepresented. You need to have a certain balance to things. But then again, you can't focus on your main character too much. And again, this is in books and shows and movies and everything. And that's one of the things Breaking Bad did beautifully. It shows different perspectives of different characters, and Better Call Saul as well. In Better Call Saul, they devote an entire episode to telling the story of Mike and Mike's son. An entire episode. Completely ignoring the main plot revolving around Hamlin, Saul, or Jimmy's girlfriend, Charles. Completely ignores all of that and focuses on Mike. And this will, at least as far as I know, will have no later tie-in to the character. At least the story that was told will have no tie-in, no major tie-in to Jimmy McGill and so on. And yet it gives you a completely new understanding of the character Mike, and even some of the side characters, like I guess you could say Mike's daughter-in-law and Mike's granddaughter. You don't need to know about these characters, but the show actually goes in depth to tell you about these characters, and that's what just makes it so amazing to me. And so many shows miss on this. You need to focus. Great, big budget, special effects, big actors. Wonderful, wonderful. Good for you. Give yourself a little dog treat or something. But you need to focus on your characters, because that's the thing. That's what counts the most. That's what's really important. Sorry about this real quick. A bit of a technical difficulty here. All right, we're back. We're back. And if anyone would like to call in, by the way, again, our topic is shows. Please call in the number 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Sorry about that. I was answering a question from a fan. Back to the topic at hand, which is once again shows. Everything, and I mean everything should revolve around the characters at hand. And if you think about it, it makes sense. That was just a quick little recap. And sorry, I kind of zeroed out there. But anyways, I mean, I know I'm going to be switching off here to what makes a show bad in a second here, but this is my point. Characters are everything. But let's talk about a different kind of show. We're talking all about these normal shows. We talk about these normal shows. Like, well, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about other kinds of shows, like reality shows. And what I mean by that, Jimmy Fallon. No, okay, I'm gonna be zeroing in a bit on these Tonight Show hosts and so on, and these comedians and everything for the remaining 11 minutes of this segment, because I feel like these guys need to be talked about. They're getting away with way too much, and they do have their own show, so I also wanted to fit that into this particular episode of the Ben Moskalensky Show. I'm checking on connection as we speak, so if there are any problems, please let me know with the connection. And yes, again, our current topic, as things are right now, is shows. Let's start easy. Let's start with Jimmy Kimmel. Fallon is actually doing a lot better. To those Jimmy Fallon fans out there, Jimmy Fallon is slightly better. I still dislike him a lot. I really dislike Jimmy Fallon. But compared to some of the other people he's working with, or not working with, but he's competing with, like Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, Trevor Noah, James Corden, I'll take him. I will take Jimmy Fallon. But off to Jimmy Kimmel. First of all, these people are not funny. Does anyone here, my guess is most people here aren't old enough, but Jay Leno, he owned the Tonight Show with, well, that is now Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. Formerly was Jay Leno's Tonight Show. Man, was that stuff funny. 20 years of funny. And because of PC shilling out, which I'm going to get into very shortly here, by NBC, I believe it was, we got to get rid of Jay Leno because he doesn't, quote-unquote, align with the corporation's views, even though he'd been doing this for a while. It's just the fact that he's getting a bit more serious. So they get in a Hollywood shill that is not funny, also known as Jimmy Fallon. And he was never funny to begin with, unlike Jay Leno, who was funny for 20 years at the top, at his very prime. He was at his prime and they got rid of him. But Jimmy Kimmel, and mind you, Jimmy Fallon hasn't really done anything quite as scummy. I mean, they've all done scummy stuff. They're all scummy. But nothing as scummy as Colbert or Kimmel. It might be Colbert is worse than Kimmel. Colbert is like, it's like when you get done looking at the pile of worms, at the very bottom there's a beetle trying to eat those pile of worms. That beetle is Stephen Colbert, whereas the worms are everybody else. But Jimmy Kimmel is, in my view, a terrible person. Not just a terrible comedian, not just a terrible host, a terrible person. I will be explaining this in a second here. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, we're going back to our current topics, which is shows on our 10th anniversary, or at least our 10th show anniversary, in which we will also be having our 2-hour special. That is why every topic will be 30 minutes, be it the same number of topics, and at least the same general formatting. Back to the topic at hand, which is once again shows. I like to look at shows as something of entertainment. And I think that's how most people look at it, except for the people who work on the shows. Jimmy Kimmel has turned it into something else. Political propaganda. And man, oh man, is this annoying. Actually, not just Jimmy Kimmel. It started, I'm not sure where it started, but it sucks. Whoever started it, it's not good on them. Not good on them at all. But it's just one of the things that annoys me so much is all this political propaganda. I understand what Jimmy Kimmel did. A couple months ago, I believe it was, Jimmy Kimmel had a newborn son, I believe. And his son almost died right after being born. But luckily, the doctors were able to save him. And Jimmy Kimmel comes on to the show teary-eyed, and he explains the case. At this point, I was feeling sympathy for him. He was telling the story as it was and said, thank God for the doctors who were able to help him and save him, and so on. And he said that this would not have been possible if Donald Trump would have been able to repeal and replace Obamacare. Excuse me? You did not hear me wrong. I'm not sure if I paraphrase. Actually, I'm almost positive I didn't paraphrase it. But he basically said that if it wasn't for Obamacare, if it wasn't for Trump's failure, President Donald Trump's failure in repealing and replacing Obamacare, that his son would have died. And he blamed the near death. He pretty much blamed the near death of his son on the president. This is the level we're at, because That is not true. Jimmy Kimmel is a millionaire, a multi-millionaire. He's never going to need money again in his life. And that's such a dumb point anyway. It's not like the doctors wouldn't be able to do their job. But this is my point. He literally, and the thing that just disgusted me was the fact that it's not like he made up the story. It's completely, the story is legit. You know what I say in the Ben Moskalensky show? A fact's not a fact unless it's a fact, and we have the facts on here. But the thing that just disgusts me about this person is the fact that he manipulated his own family drama in order to get sympathy from the audience and throw a political blow. That's a disgusting thing to do. And you might say, well, I mean, how is that possible? How can Jimmy Kimmel not be the worst of them in your view? You see, Jimmy Kimmel did this, in my view, this is like the ultimate low for what you could do on a show like this. But you see, Stephen Colbert does it every night. He does garbage like this every night. Not quite the same, but it's just completely demeaning and insulting. And they all do it, but none more than Stephen Colbert. And his ratings are skyrocketing, which just infuriates me. I mean, I'm ready for Mark Dice to have his own, Mark Dice or someone of the sort, someone on Fox News to have their own one of these Tonight shows. Just show it to them. This is what you get. This is payback. And the ratings will skyrocket above all of theirs. But sadly, so far that's not happening because all these different media outlets who own these people are beyond corrupt in their attempt to appeal to the swarm generation, our generation, which is just coming in and taking over the digital market. Henceforth, why they're campaigning to us with corporate shilling. Wow, I think in under a minute, 1 minute. In about a minute, I pretty much deconstructed all the Tonight shows. Wow, I've gotten a good bit of practice on this show. That's all I'm going to say. If anyone would like to agree with me or possibly put on some other points, like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I am wrong, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. I'm not sure what that was. That was painful, actually. That's what that was. But back to the topic at hand, which is once again shows. And if anyone would like to call in, please don't hesitate. Back to the topic at hand. So the thing that amazes me is how this is still working. This has been deconstructed by people far more famous and far more professional than me. Again and 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 again. But just like the wage gap, people still believe this. People still believe into this myth that these people actually care and that these people are genuine and legit, and they will do anything to corporately shill out. Look at James Corden as an example. And in my view, James Corden is one of the better ones, and that's saying something considering James Corden is not good. But you look at James Corden as an example. It was in one of the best movies of all time, the Emoji Movie. And to those of you who can't tell the difference between my normal voice and my sarcastic voice, that was my sarcastic voice. The Emoji Movie is one of the worst movies of all time. I believe on the day it came out or in the ensuing days that it came out, it was the 6th lowest rated movie of all time on IMDb of all time. I believe the current ratings on it via Rotten Tomatoes, it has jumped to 8%. Before it was 7%. And on opening day, it was 3%. With 10% on Metacritic and 1.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which equals out to 19%. And 23% of Google users liked it. So I'm going to actually average this out for everything. And I'm actually doing this right now as I speak. 15% is our grand average for the amazing Emoji Movie. Fantastic job. And one of the main actors in here one of them was TJ Miller, which is a comedian who is not funny. But another one of the main roles is High Five. One of the main characters is High Five, the goofy, fat, unnecessary sidekick stereotype, played by James Corden. In order to be a comedian, you need to have a certain amount of self-awareness. I believe Jerry Seinfeld has commented on well, he's commented on himself many times regarding the show Seinfeld, including his own screw-ups and the show screw-ups. And I believe he has also commented on the amazing movie known as the B Movie, and how some parts of it were memeable at best and terrible at worst. Even though the B Movie wasn't that horrible of a movie. Nothing compared to the Emoji Movie, that's for sure. And trust me, when I do my worst of 2017, I can almost guarantee you the Emoji Movie is going to be on there. But that's not going to come as much of a surprise to anybody. It's probably, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's top 3, actually. Maybe even number 1. But the thing that amazes me is that, like, all these people involved, like TJ Miller and James Corden, they're like, no, the Emoji Movie is great. Doesn't matter what anyone else says. Like, how can you not be aware? So they're shills, and they're all unself-aware, unless, of course, it works out to their corporate people who they're shilling out to. And that is everybody, with almost no exceptions. And now we will be moving on to our second topic, which is currently the mainstream media. I'm going to be talking about the goods, the bads, and the goods. And also the facts that are pretty in the middle. As some of the longer listeners of this show will know, who are more than fans of just Show 9, which absolutely blew up for some reason. My beliefs are organized in a more conservative manner. I'd say I'm not exactly some diehard conservative, but I am more, let's put it this way, I'm more right-leaning than left. That's really the simplest way to put it. And back when I got, less than like 40 views per show, and this is where I talked about it a lot more. And I feel like for this one, I'd like to get back into it. And by the way, thank you everybody so much for joining me on this show. It's so cool that we're getting, a lot of more people on this show. In my view, it's really cool how this whole thing is working out and how we're building this nice community. But we'll talk about that more on the free-for-all. We'll be focusing on that in the next 28 minutes. But the thing I wanted to talk about right now was the pure and simple fact of mainstream media. Now, everyone says that all mainstream media is bad and everything they've ever done is bad. This is, in a majority of itself, true. But not all of it. And ironically enough, I'm going to be telling a little story here, going way back to something that practically no one who watches this show will remember, but I did my homework. Bill Clinton. Hopefully, most of the readers of the show, as most of the readers of this show will know, listeners of the show will know, Bill Clinton, 42nd President of the United States, was impeached by the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives, I mean. And the only reason he was not completely impeached was because the Senate decided, no, we're not doing this. At least I believe it was the Senate who did not impeach him and the House who did. I don't believe it was the other way around. But one of the interesting things is one of the reasons he was impeached was because of perjury, I believe, not to mention the other scandals going on at the time. Perjury, to those of you who don't know, is lying under oath. I'm actually going to look at the definition of perjury right now. And that's pretty, and he was actually under oath. So that's, yeah, the offense of willfully telling an untruth in a court after having taken an oath or affirmation. It's pretty much lying under the oath, which is something that was confirmed that Bill Clinton did regarding relations with one of the employees at the White House. It wasn't the fact. I don't think it was the fact that he did it himself. The morals of that are debatable, and the fact of whether or not he should have ever been on trial for that is also debatable. Which is, again, not something we're going to get into today, but it's undeniable that in the circumstances he was in, he did the wrong thing because he went, perjury. And one of the things is this was originally reported. None of the mainstream media was really talking about this, or at least none of the popular media at the time, until a tabloid. I kid you not, a tabloid. You know those really dumb things you see, like whatever, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie divorce stories and everything. You know those tabloids that you see on your way back home from a grocery store that you typically think are like No way is this ever going to report anything. Yep. One of the biggest presidential scandals of all time was actually truthfully reported by a tabloid, funny enough, before anyone else could get to it. And no one believed them at first until people started looking into it, and they were completely right. And that's the amazing thing to me, is how this can be overlooked, and how biased. I mean, this isn't as bad. This was one of the few times media screwed up back then, with the exception of CNN, which is before all these new nicknames we have: the Clown News Network, Crappy News Network, which is my personal come up of it, and favorite, the Counterfeit News Network, Communist News Network, and so on. The original and only name for it, other than its real name, which is Cable News Network, Clinton News Network, because they were very biased towards the Clintons and still are. But now we have it going on in almost everything. The unbelievable bias in media, whereas to the point where fake news has become a totally common term. And we need it's kind of funny how now we have news and fact checking. Like, these are two different things now. Fact checking and what you read in the news are now two different things. You need your fact checks on the news to be fact checked. I mean, that's pretty absurd if you ask me. But let's look. But here's an example. Some people might not trust me. I'm reading something right now by the Washington Times, which is pretty much unanimously trusted. Everyone likes, very well respected. Not the Washington Compost. Washington Times is very respected because they are very fair in my view. This was an article put out about President Trump. While everyone was talking about how have the first 100 days been going. As first 100 days in office approaches, media coverage of Trump is 89% negative. You did not hear that wrong. 89%. It's not 50-50. It's not even something even kind of biased. In my view, it should be about, if it's anything less than 30, more than 70, in my view, there's some sort of bias. This is nearly 90%. And there are exact statistics in here. And you want to know why Fox is called balanced, or the fair news network, despite what some idiots would like to say about it? Let's read a bit of this. As President Trump approaches the end of his first 100 days in office, he has received by far the most hostile press treatment of any incoming president, with the broadcast networks punishing him with coverage that has been 89% negative. This actually came from newsbusters.org originally. In a new study, the pair pored over evening news coverage on ABC, CBS, and NBC from January 20th through April 9th. Over 1,000 stories focused on Mr. Trump and his new administration. That amounted to 1,900 minutes of total airtime. Only 186 were positive in content or tone. This is the level we're at. 89%. And then it's just amazing to me. How can there be so much bias in something that so many people trust? Because so many people remember the days back when media was good, back when you could actually trust the New York Times. And so many people will not move on from this, and they're just completely, they're just totally overlooking the facts. I mean, New York Times themselves, they came out with an article saying, "We support Hillary Clinton." Not one editorial. The pretty much the organization as a whole said, "We support Hillary Clinton." This is a fact. You can go look this up. And they're still viewed as an unbiased, completely trustworthy source. And this just amazes me. How are people so gullible? I mean, it's really the only way to put it. I mean, okay, you disagree with me, that's fine. If you want to voice your grievances, or if you agree with me and have some more data to put on the table, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Sorry about that quick pause. Just need a bit of water. Once again, number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. All right, so right now we are in our second section, which is once again about the media. and what's good, what's bad, what's up. Well, what's down? No, don't watch What's Up. That's a really bad movie. And I'm not talking about Up. I'm talking about What's Up. If you look it up, that's a thing. Trust me, I know. But the thing that just amazes me about all these mainstream media is how they get away with it. I mean, it's just that they're really, and I mean, there should be some sort of a class action lawsuit. There should be a suit because some of these people, some of the worst ones. I'm not talking about people like organizations that are not as bad. Like I feel like CNBC isn't too bad. But you look at HuffPost, Bloomberg, CNN, MSNBC. It's so unbelievably biased. I mean, I remember I saw a study saying that like Fox News, their coverage of President Trump, 48% positive, 52% negative. You can't get much more fair than that. Everyone else was, I think CNN was like 93% negative, 7% positive. I mean, how can you trust someone who's that bad? And it's not like there's blatant evidence. I mean, now idiots are calling President Trump a Nazi, but that's idiots. But it's like these are people in the media. And what amazes me is that so many people are buying into this, and they're actually actively going along and brainwashing more people. I mean, so many people are like, what Trump said about Charlottesville was that was racist. It was Nazi-esque. Are you kidding? He couldn't say anything more fair. He literally said, you can fact check, you can look at what the president himself said. Don't look at an article. Do not read an article of what the president said. You go look up a speech, a video. It has to be a video of a speech, because anything less from any news will not be trustworthy. You gotta look up the video of what he said. I am not paraphrasing, but I am giving across the general message. We do not condone racism in any way. And both the alt-right and the alt-left, both sides are to blame. What else do you want? And it's not like this is true. I believe Van Jones of CNN almost started, in my view, and he should be fired, by the way. I talked about this. Project Veritas, I believe the name was, for the CNN exposure. I believe he should be fired, or at least highly demoted or shamed to a certain extent after what leaked with him and some of his comrades, some of his Soviet comrades, during the whole Project Veritas drama. Go make sure to check out a previous show where I talked all about what happened with Project Veritas and what it is. He actually started crying live on the air because President Trump said both sides were to blame. And here's what happened in Charlottesville as far as I understand it. A bunch of Nazis, and by the way, these are neo-Nazis. I don't use that term lightly. I do not use this term for people who are not neo-Nazis or who are not racist. These people were literally doing hails in the middle of the street. Not ironically, like some idiot like PewDiePie. These people were doing like Hail Hitler in the middle of the street. These people, they were like all white. They were impersonating KKK people. Like this is not some edgy teenager making idiotic jokes. This was a real white supremacy protest. They're in the middle of doing this, and this was in Charlottesville. I believe they were taking down a statue, and now there's a whole other drama with statues. And then some lady who I believe was classified as alt-left or some guy in a truck started running over a bunch of them. But yes, the violence was sparked by the alt-right. But it's not like the left did not respond with the violence as well. And the thing is, where exactly is one side innocent? Because I'm kind of failing to find where the innocence is. Everyone's guilty. Everyone, not just the right, not just the left. They are both guilty of sin. And this is the thing that's for, because if you ask the mainstream media, that's not what happened. Everything was right except for what the right did. So that's the current topic. Once again, and I'm actually going to inform a fan about this right now. If anyone would like to call in with the current topic, or call and talk on the show on our 10th show anniversary. The number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. First, put in the number, then the pin. And I'm actually saying the same thing right here. You'll be connected to me, and we can start talking about this sort of stuff, because a lot of interesting topics. You can pretty much go as long or short as you'd like to. There really is no time limit unless you kind of come in for 15 seconds and then leave, or you stay for the entirety of the show. Unless, of course, you're a co-host, in which case you can definitely stay for the entirety of the show. But the thing that just floors me is just how anything can be manipulated. Like, I saw this just beyond moronic post. It said, I'm not going to give away any names. I don't want any hate going to this person, because this person's actually a nice person, regardless of the stupidity of this one particular post. So it shows like dialogue of a mother talking to a child talking to a mother. The child asks, "Mommy, what was 2016 like?" The mom replies, "Well, sweetie, everyone was so focused on some woman's emails that they didn't notice when Nazis took over the country." And it shows a picture of President Trump with a Nazi flag behind him. Yep. And honestly, again, this gentleman or lady who posted this post is actually a very nice person, but it's just misinformed. And this is the thing that floors me. These people are doing this on purpose. It's no longer, and I'm gonna look up HuffPost. I'm looking this up right now. I'll bet you there will not be one unbiased article. You know, when you look it up on desktop, there are always 3 articles that appear right off the bat. I can bet you almost anything that all 3 of these articles, at least 2 of them, are not going to be unbiased. So, first article. Well, okay, I'm going to look up HuffPost Donald Trump, because contrary to popular belief, they do actually talk about other things. 3 articles. Trumps will skip Kennedy Center honors to avoid political distraction. Okay, that one doesn't seem too bad. Jon Stewart goes off about Donald Trump's response to neo-Nazis. Do you see how they worded this? Jon Stewart goes off about Donald Trump's response to neo-Nazis. Like, he's like pushing back, like the little guy's pushing back against the big guy. That's already one right there. And I'll bet you if I read that first article, there will be more to it. And the third one, Al Gore calls on Donald Trump to resign. And again, it's like there's no sign of like, it just says that. Now only the second one seems biased in its title. I'm going to go to either of these articles. I will go to either. I'm going to flip a coin. I don't want to go through both of them because I can't stand that much toxic stuff. But we're going to flip a coin. If it's heads, we're going to look at Trumps will skip Kennedy Center honors to avoid political distraction. And if it's tails, it'll be Al Gore calling on Donald Trump to resign. By the way, these are very recent articles. I literally looked up HuffPost Donald Trump. And it said under top stories. Literally, the first one 8 hours ago, and the one regarding Al Gore was 1 day ago. These are both extremely recent. Flip a coin, heads or tails. Let's see. I'm using the Google. If you type in flip a coin, we'll have you flip a coin. Tails. Okay. So we're gonna look at Al Gore calls on Donald Trump to resign. And if anyone would like to, talk on the show about any of what's going on right now. Again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Sorry about that. That was the website's audio. All right, I'll bet you we're going to get into this at no time. Former Vice President Al Gore was asked if he had any advice for President Donald Trump. He offered up just one word: resign. Gore said in an interview with Lad Bible, weird, posted online on Thursday. Gore, who lost the 2000 presidential election to George W. Bush, made the comment while promoting his new film, An Inconvenient Sequel. Last year, Gore visited Trump Tower after the election to discuss climate change in what he called a productive session. his relationship with the president has been much less productive since. That wording. So it sounds like Al Gore is trying to go over to Donald Trump, or Trump as they love to call him. Can't call him president. Never call him President Trump. Well, except for the beginning of this article, because they need to fool people into thinking they're unbiased at first. And they want to make it seem like a productive session, like I'm making progress with the president, but then the president turns it down. This is unbelievable. I mean, there's this one great YouTuber on YouTube, Mark Dice. You can look him up. He has debunked Al Gore again and again and again. Very recently, only about a couple days or a week ago, I believe, regarding his interview about an Inconvenient sequel. And it just posts like it's a montage of every crazy thing he said about climate change. And you'll see what I mean. This isn't some normal person. But again, the mainstream media can turn this stuff around however they want to. They can manipulate anything, and they can make it something else. And honestly, this is spread everywhere. This is spread onto YouTube as well. I'm actually probably going to be talking about this in the upcoming BMSs, as I like to call them now, because I want to get more into YouTube. I want to talk about individual YouTubers. I want to talk about Keemstar, who I dislike now. And now I'm a strictly Philly D guy. I'm only Philly D at the moment, and I'm not even totally sure about him. I want to talk about all three of them actually on separate shows. Well, Philly D Scared, or all three of them, Philly D Scares and Keemstar. I want to talk about FouseyTube some more, because man, I hate FouseyTube. I want to talk about the Freakonision. There is an endless list. Daddy05, Derv. This list can go on all day, and I want to talk about YouTube's problem itself. This video itself is probably going to be censored, knowing YouTube, for not perfectly aligning with their views. But this is the thing. Anything can be spun to fit a certain agenda. And the thing is, it's okay if this is some whack job doing this, like some fake news organization. Like, I remember I saw an article one time by quote-unquote Sky News, which is one of the main news networks in the UK. Turns out it was nothing. It was like it was a fake news, and it's not like Sky News was spreading fake news. It was I actually kind of like Sky News. It was it was like some imitation thing. I hope they were shut down now, because it was actually a really good mimic. So you gotta be careful. Like you gotta check and double check your sources on what you're looking at nowadays. But it just floors me how it can be so unbiased. And again, it's not like some whack job, like some fake stuff. Some of the biggest names in the media business are just inherently biased now, and it's totally to fit a corporate agenda. It's not like they're biased towards America or against racists. They are all biased towards the left-leaning political parties. Some worse than others, but almost all of them are, with exceptions like Sky News, I think, Fox News, Breitbart, who I like now that they fired Milo, and a couple others. Actually, I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but no, there are a couple others, just not many others. Whereas I can list a much, much, much longer list of all of the inherently biased media. But heck, I could be wrong. I mean, not everything I said here is a fact. A lot of this was opinion. And if you'd like to argue that point, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now back to the topic at hand for the final 6 minutes of our segment, and then we're going to be hitting our half point. Once again, the segment is mainstream media. So if anyone wants to talk about the media or stuff, news in general, news about the news, actually, funny enough, make sure to call the number just to list it again. If anybody missed it, the number is 719-284-5873, and before the pin, I need another drink of water. Now that I can breathe again, the pin is 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Sorry I repeated that number a million times. I just wanted to, make sure it was totally across. And I have no idea how Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and Michael Medved do these shows. My voice is tired, man. I'm gonna stick through this because this is fun, and I hope you guys are having just as much fun calling in and listening as I am talking with you guys and having an interactive, cool experience with the show. And during most of the free-for-all, I'm probably going to be talking about the show itself, but back to the mainstream media for now. I'm actually going to, now I'm going to try something a bit more vast rather than just HuffPost. I'm going to look up Donald Trump, because of course there's going to be articles. Twitter trolls on heel versus heel typo. Okay, this was by USA Today. So, gotta make, okay, yeah, that's a really great article. The fact that the president probably misspelled the word heel in one of his tweets. Trump to skip, oh, here we go. CNN worded this beautifully. Trump to skip Kennedy Center honors. I mean, at least HuffPost said why. I mean, unbelievable. And the worst of them is this final article that's shown right now. 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago. 3. You can't get close to this. 3 minutes ago by CNN. There's a hidden message of resistance in the White House Arts Committee's resignation letter. So it's like showing that the White House is all up against each other, because that's another one of the conceptions in the mainstream media, is that everyone in the White House is against everyone else in the White House. Let's look up some articles about our past president, which the media was inherently biased towards. I'm not saying everything that the media has ever said about Barack Obama, Mr. President Barack Obama, President Obama or former President Obama has been bad. Like the choice to go to go kill Osama bin Laden, just a great choice for the president. Why do I sound sarcastic? I'm actually saying that for real. Well, let's just see this. Barack Obama and Joe Biden save the future in Barry and Joe, the animated series. Yep. This is real. NBC. This is by NBC, by the way. 10 hours ago by NBC. I mean, it makes it sound like they are, like, oh, look at them. They're like kind of like real life, Like they're painting them out to be like these saints that are just saving the future. Like accurate to real life. It's all about. They never come out and flat out say it. Except if you're New York Times. At least they actually came out and said it. You got to think about it. You got to think about it. One funny thing before I go through the other 2 articles here and wrap up this section before we go into our free-for-all, in which we can talk about anything. Typically, when you look up a person, like as an example, I just looked up Barack Obama. The people also search for, when you look up the persons, right below their quotes in Wikipedia. So the first 4 results make sense. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, and Dunham. Number 5 is Vladimir Putin. I don't know. I kind of find that funny. It's probably something similar to that if you look up Donald Trump. I'm actually going to test this out right now because this is just too funny. If it's not, then it's going to be even more funny. Oh, it's not. Number 1 is Stephen Bannon. Number 2 is Priebus. Number 3 is Obama. Number 4 is Melania. And number 5 is Hillary. Oh, Putin isn't top 5 on Trump's people also search for. That is hilarious. That's really funny, actually. So now we know. Russians hacked the election to get Obama in. Little known fact. And I'll bet you, if you look up Hillary, my guess is it'll be the most amazing thing if Putin's top 5. He's not. No. It's President Trump, President Obama, President Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Chelsea. Dang it. Man, that would have been really funny. Sorry we got a bit off topic there. That was just too beautiful not to exploit. The Google algorithms kind of screwed up a bit there. I guess not everything's I guess not everything is held back. A little bit seeps through. All right, let's look at this next one by the New York Times 3 days ago. Obama's Charlottesville response, boosted by nostalgia, becomes most liked tweet ever. I doubt that. Most liked tweet ever. Could be. I'll look into this. But I doubt that. But notice how they word it. Boosted by nostalgia. They don't talk about his actual tweet. They talked about boosted by nostalgia to make you feel like, oh, the good old days. And let's look at the third one. New animated sitcom would chronicle crime fighting Biden and Obama. Okay, fine. Props to the Hill, but the Hill's actually not bad. The Hill's not bad, so it makes sense that they wouldn't do anything too bad. But this is my point. It's like everything is now inherently biased, or almost everything. And we got to go back to what it was before. And I was actually talking about this on my last segment. If you missed that, go back, watch that segment. We got to stop with this biased stuff and stuff where it's not supposed to be biased. Anyways, that's going to wrap up our second section. We are now at the halfway point in this episode. My vocal cords are starting to fall apart. No, I'm kidding. If they were actually, I would not be here. But yeah, we're going to be moving on to our free-for-all section for the next half hour where we can talk about virtually anything. As long as it's, you know, still generally about the topics, you know, that we typically talk about. But let's go a little bit into the history of the show. I thought until someone else calls in and hijacks the show, let's talk a bit about the history of the Ben Moskalensky show. One of the things that, in my view, was it was a really cool idea at first. Like, I remember I was listening to, I believe it was Michael Medved, or maybe it was Rush Limbaugh, and I got really interested while listening to them. I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if I had something like that? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, yeah, actually, I could have that. And over time, I started developing an idea. And funny enough, when I originally came up with this idea, I was actually going to Jazz Alley. And by the time I had enough of a basis structure in my head to actually like present this idea to my dad, who has been a tremendous support and influence in my life, who has helped me come up and with a lot of my ideas, and if not work with me in those ideas, then support me constantly and always show me love. And Dad, if you're listening to this, thank you very much. But you know, enough of that. But it was kind of funny. Like we were going to Jazz Alley when I came up with the idea, and by the time I had a strong enough basis, we were still going to Jazz Alley. All right, looks like we just. Hello.
Am I live on the air?
Yes, you are live on the air. Hello, caller. What is your name?
Okay, well, I am Teddy Roosevelt with the FBI, and I have firm evidence to believe that you did 9/11. Do you have any stories to combat this? As I will have provided evidence against the grand jury.
Okay, you know, it's kind of funny. At first, when I heard FBI, I was actually kind of concerned. I don't know why. That was actually a pretty clever prank call by whoever this person is.
I am Teddy Roosevelt with the FBI, and I have firm evidence to believe that you did 9/11. Do you have any information to combat this, or would you like to just plead guilty right now, as we do have very firm evidence?
Can we please stop with the spam call part? If you'd like to actually talk about something about the show, that would be completely fine. If not, I'm going to kick you from this call.
Wait. Is this Wesley Hill? Is this Wesley Hill?
No, this is the Ben Moskalensky show.
Oh, so this isn't Wesley Hill. Like, I just wondered, like, are you 3? Because I'm looking at your thing, and it looks like you're 3.
Good for you. Goodbye. That was a spam call. So anyways, sorry about that, everybody. Speaking of which, first spam call for the Ben Moskalensky show. What a fantastic way to celebrate this. I am very sorry to everyone who had to hear that. That was very annoying to both you and I. I'm blocking this number. I assume this is the same person. Anyways, if anyone would like to talk about well, we can pretty much talk about anything as long as it's no longer a spam call. So if anyone would be interested, please let me know. Preferably someone other than a spam caller. I would prefer that. Because, well, Ben Moskalensky show, we typically don't like to do, you know, stuff like that, spam calls. So going back to the topic at hand, which is nothing at the moment, a bit of history with the Ben Moskalensky show. It's just, well, I mean, you know, it was just amazing. Like, I kept talking about it with my dad, and I got more and more excited. And eventually, we started doing promotion for the show, and I guess now we're popular enough to the point where we can have spam callers now. which is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things I really love about the show is it's just such a great community kind of a feeling. I mean, again, without spammers. And one of the things I enjoyed most about the show, and I know I've talked about this before, is just the wide variety of people we get. Again, not counting our last 4 spam calls, not counting those. The wide variety of calls we've gotten is just absolutely mind-boggling. It is just so much fun. And I've enjoyed talking to so many people, be it people I don't know, and those who I do know, be it friends, close friends, or people I've barely met. And it's just such a cool environment we have. Like, and one of the great things since the show, I'm not exactly a national radio star. I can actually remember callers and talk to people. And this is one of the coolest things about the show is I can completely dictate, and I can actually talk to you guys and dictate what are we going to be doing, what is up, what are we doing, what is going on. I can just totally and completely keep control of this. And that, in my view, is that's just so cool. And one of my favorite things about this show is, and by the way, I'm blocking this number if you do spam one more time. We just got another caller. If you spam one more time, I'm blocking this number. No comment? Very well then. So anyways, as I was saying, and over time we started developing this show. Originally we were thinking it was going to be a visual show. And then, by the way, if anyone would like to call in, please feel free to do so. Luckily this time there was no spam call. I thought that was going to be another one, but no, not as of yet. I was literally I was in the middle of clicking the block button when that person hung up, but hey, good for them, right? Next time if they call in, I'm definitely not going to be avoiding that, and I'm definitely not going to be, clicking the good number or the good button, which is just the hang up. But I guess you can. All right. I was actually about to say I thought we got another spam caller, but we got a caller coming in. Hello, caller. What is your name?
My name is Jonathan.
Jonathan. Hello. We have Jonathan. From what state is that? What state are you from?
I am from Pakistan.
Sorry, from what? I'm sorry, you're connected. Georgia?
Georgia. Yeah.
All right. Well, very nice to meet you. Right now we're on the Ben Moskalensky show. We are talking about we're kind of talking about the history of the show. And one of the cool things about the show is it is a kids show. Like, it's meant for kids to call in, and it's meant specifically for kids. And one of the cool.
Well, I just wondered.
Sorry.
Black kids to call in?
Sorry, excuse me? Sorry, what?
Do you like it when black kids call in?
I'm sorry, your connection is it's very hard to hear you.
Wait. Do you listen? Do you like it when
I'm sorry, it's very hard to hear you. Maybe try hanging.
Can you hear me?
Wait.
Wait, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just wondered, like in between content sessions,
Your voice keeps fading in and out. I'm very sorry.
You like it when black kids call in after they're done with their content taking?
What? I'm sorry, your voice keeps fading out. I'm sorry. Would you mind hanging up and possibly calling back later?
No. Do you mind calling in?
What? I'm sorry. I had to kick these people from the call. I have no idea what is going on with. We either have spam calls or when we get genuine calls, the connection is not good. Sorry about that for anyone else who's listening. Just the connection is too bad. We've gotten more calls on this show than any other show so far. So far we have a grand total of 11 calls. Hello? Is your connection possibly better now? I'm really sorry for hanging up. It just you were just too much. Hello? Who is this?
This is Jonathan from Georgia.
Okay, Jonathan from Georgia. Your connection is finally working. Yes, it's finally working.
Like my weird phone. But listen, I was just wondering, do you find it when Filthy Content is calling you a show after a long day?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Do you like it when content call in to the show after a long day?
When spammers call in, you mean? Do you mean spammers? Oh, spammers. No, I do not appreciate spammers at all. If anyone is calling in with a spam call, I'd like to put it on the record. Thank you for asking, by the way, that I will be hanging up on you absolutely immediately if I sense the slightest tinge of spam. And if I ever see that number again, you will just be hanged up on immediately. Yes? What? I'm sorry, I can barely hear you. I'm not sure. What? I'm sorry, I think you're mistaking me for someone else. All right, we're having more calls coming in right now.
No, you are. I know this is a big show. But that kid looks like it's a ball on the shirt.
I'm sorry. Everyone is breaking up. I'm gonna have to kick you. I'm sorry. Hello, we have someone else. Hello, who is this? Unbelievable. I'm not sure what's happening right now. We have one other person on the line. I have no idea what is happening right now. Hello. Hello. Is anyone there? No, of course not. I'm sorry. We're not. I don't know what's happening right now. We're actually not going to be taking any calls right now. I'm not sure what's going on right now. Anyways, back to the topic at hand, which is currently going to be it's going to be about the show itself. I am so sorry for all those technical glitches. Probably very funny to listen to. We got 19 people. We had 19 calls. And frankly, this is just an unbelievable record, some of which were spam, some of which were not. I have no idea why the free-for-all section just blew up like crazy. And actually, we're getting viewers like I'm looking at the viewers on the HOA thing right now. It is just skyrocketing. I will be returning to the session of calls later. I'm hoping like all the spam callers will notice that like maybe maybe their calls aren't working anymore. They're going to clear out, and I can kind of thin out the herd and remain with only genuine callers. So finally, after just ages, we finally cleared out the spam callers. Hopefully that will never happen again. What a great thing to happen on our 10th show special. We currently have 17 minutes left. I'm not going to, in this section, I'm not going to be repeating the number a million times on end because, well, I mean, there's nothing to call into at the moment. Again, I'm going to let the herd thin out. I'm going to check if like any weirdo is commenting on my stuff right now so I can find out who this person is and tell them like, knock it off, this isn't funny, or if I can report them or something of the sort. And like I've blocked some of the numbers, but I think some of them are like calling on with different lines, and that's just totally screwing it up. But wow, when I was hoping, I was considering saying this at the beginning of the episode, but I kind of slipped my mind at the beginning of the show. Wouldn't it be cool if we got a new record today? Our former new record was 3 callers. 19. Wow. Unbelievable. That's insane. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, that's wow. I'm not sure what I did. I'm not sure why we had like 3 or 4 spam callers. And yeah, I'm seeing like more attempts right now, but yeah, like there are people trying to call in right now. I'm not sure who that lady was from or guy from Georgia. I think maybe I'm not sure what that was. Like I heard something about plants, I believe. and I'm just not sure. I thought it was saying spam caller, but yes, for the record, if you are a spam caller, if you're trying to play a joke, there are shows specifically for you. There are shows meant for calls like that. This is not one of them. And I'm gonna have to start completely regulating calls. And if you'll actually want to call in to actually talk about stuff related to the show, I will automatically kick you off because I can completely do that. It's totally the power is completely under my control. And right now we're just kind of trying to keep it to we're kind of gonna kick down on the calls right now. We're gonna take a quick break. I definitely do not need any calls for the rest of the show. We got 19 calls in the span of 12 minutes, I believe, with the rest of the show not getting a single call. At least not currently. We might get more, hopefully genuine calls throughout the rest of the show. But yeah, I think that was actually pretty cool. You know, again, forgetting the spam ones. I'm just texting a friend right now, and actually, I'm texting various people, and because that was just crazy. I mean, I can't believe that just happened. But yeah, returning to the topic at hand, which is again free for all for these next 14 minutes. So yeah, that's kind of how the Ben Moskalensky show found its roots, and I kept pushing it back. I believe I started on the very first weekend of summer because I kept pushing it back due to school reasons and promotion reasons. That's why we had a good bit of callers in the beginning. That's why I kind of dropped off. A lot of people were actually calling in from school. And as you can tell now, I did not recognize a single person calling in. So yeah, that was weird though. I mean, I've never seen a rush of callers like that. We got 4 or 5 spam callers, not even calls, callers. But man, that's crazy. It's also just fascinating how the show turned out. I mean, I kind of started this off as a little gimmick. I was almost positive I'd drop it off at this point. But here we are. We started in June, and we're already here in August. Hopefully, we're going to make it to the 20 milestone at some point, then 25, then 50, then 100, and so on. I'm sure by then it'll probably be like 19 callers. None of them will be spam. I'll probably figure some way to thin out the herd. And like it'll probably be like 19 callers at least will probably be like a normal thing for me. But like at this point, it was actually really interesting just to see an insane number of people just start calling. And like we had 3 people on the line at one point. That was amazing. And a good percentage of those 19, did I just go British? A good percentage of those 19 were actually spam callers, but not all of them. Some of them just had bad connection. But anyways, I just find it amazing how the show has already taken off. I mean, we've reached double digits for the first time. And when I go back to Uber conference in a couple minutes here, we're gonna see if we can top 20, maybe even 25 if we're lucky. I mean, at the rate we're currently going at, anything can happen. I mean, I cannot believe what just happened. I know I'm kind of in shock, and I know it's kind of boring to listen to, but I'm trying to like gather my senses. I wanted to talk a little bit about how Journal of Survivor 2 is going, since we kind of covered the show. I mean, there's not that much to go into other than like setup. And if you guys are playing some stuff for yourself, or like you want to know more on the origins, I'll do like a separate section just on the show itself if I'm running low on ideas or if I'm short on time. Like if you guys want to see that, I'll probably be doing that at some point, just talking about like how everything started, how I set everything up, the problems, and how I recommend people who want a similar format start doing things. And of course, I'll take specific deals with specific callers. I don't think getting 0 calls in a show will be a problem after today. But heck, you never know. I think some of the people calling in were adults. That was not intended. But yeah, hopefully next time people will get the memo. I made it abundantly clear while doing my promotion. Like this is what I want. This is what I need. And this is, if you're not going to deliver, that's not my fault. But yeah, Journal Survivor 2 is going at a fantastic rate at this point. So those of you who don't know, it is the sequel to my favorite book that I've made so far, Journal of the Survivor. I'm going to do a George Lucas thing where I'm going to release the Journal of the Survivor, the original, later on after I release Journal of Survivor 2. Because I do like all the backstory explanation in Journal of Survivor 2. So it's not like some deal where you need to read Journal of Survivor 1 It's like episode 4. You know, it's like great. You don't need to watch the prequels before watching episode 4, 5, 6, 7, or 3.5. But yeah, Journal Survivor 2 is really going well. If you're a fan of post-apocalyptic post-World War III, kind of very interesting perspective, kind of spy comedy book, Journal Survivor 2 is probably something you'd be interested in. Anyways, I'm gonna hop back into Uber conference now. Hopefully the spam calls have faded. To those of you who don't know, Uber conference is the thing I use in order to take calls on my on this computer, so I can get, you know, some genuine stuff. Sorry, you're about to hear a little bit of dialing. You see, that's just getting the connection reaffirmed. I'm so sorry about that. But I don't know the move. Let's go over that. Oh my gosh! Please stop.
Please hold while we wait for the others to join.
Are you done? Good. So we're done. Yay. But man, that was something. Luckily, we don't have any more spam calls coming at the moment. And if we do, I'm gonna like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start like getting super triggered. I'm gonna start blocking numbers. But that was weird right there. I mean, I just don't know what to say about Journal Survivor 2. It's possibly the most fun experience I've ever had writing. Like, I think with every book it gets more and more fun. But even though the hardest of them was by far Hawker's Memoirs, was the Hawker's Memoirs. I don't know why I made it sound like I was going into another sentence there, but even though the hardest of them was Hawker's Memoirs, I have to say Journal of the Survivor was the most fun for me and is the most fun. There are so many cool action sequences, so many nice, so many cool characters, so much nice development, if you will, of characters. Because I think that's what Journal Survivor does best overall is character development. All my books, I'd say Journal of the Survivor 2 provides the best character development. I mean, like, as an example, I want to give the example. You meet the lawyer. There's actually a lawyer in the book, Ethan Silverberg. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you're not planning on reading Journal of Survivor 2. I'm going to be talking about Journal of Survivor in the rest of this segment. So if you don't want to listen to me ramble on about my own books, you feel free to skip ahead 8 minutes from now, in which I will be talking about my final section, which is going to be about history, more specifically China, more specifically the Qin dynasty. I really wanted to do history again. I'm not sure why I wanted to do history again. I just wanted to do it again, and maybe I'll be doing it some more history as time goes on. Anyway, so far 2 minutes since I've come back on. Luckily, no more spam calls. That's good. That's good. No more bad connection. No more spam calls. Man, that was something else though. That was really something special. I mean, special is one term you can use for it. I'm writing about this one. But with Journal of Survivor, you look at Ethan Silverberg. So it starts out, I don't want to get into too much detail because A, we don't have that much time. B, I don't want to paraphrase from my own book. And C, I don't want to like completely spoil if anyone is planning on reading it, just don't care about spoilers. So they're in a hotel, or Hannah's in a hotel. She's just woken up. She's in a half delirious state. It's like barely 8 a.m. It's like, you know, still in PJs and the lights are off, you know, what normal people do. And, you know, gets a call on the phone, picks up the phone, and, you know, like yeah. So she thinks it's room service asking for breakfast. So she asks for, you know, breakfast and, you know, thanks on the double kind of a thing. And like, I'm not your and you know, you got this reply. Make sure to put an emphasis on like how hoarse and how ticked off the voice is, and how like New York Jewish voice the reply is. Because it's like, whoa, chill. I am not your breakfast deliverer. I am nothing of the sort. Listen, kid, I'm coming up to your room right now. I'm gonna be there at 5. I'm coming up with Oliver and Sawyer right now. Oliver and Sawyer are partners, if you will. Long story on that, but they're basically with her. And Hannah Holloway's the main character, to those of you who don't know. Like, I'm coming up, like, you know, be ready in 5. And this lawyer, Ethan Silverberg, turns out that it's pretty basic knowledge that, like, okay, he's going with Sawyer, so he probably knows Sawyer. So one of the things that Sawyer did in the first Journal of Survivor was whenever he said 5, like, I'll be there in 5, I'll be there in 10. He means seconds, not minutes. So she walks up to the door and opens the door. And he's in the middle of, like, he's putting his hand out, like he's outstretching his hand to knock on the door. But the door opens before he can knock. So the guy trips on the rug and he like tries to grab for anything. So he grabs for her lamp. Or the lamp there at least. And he smashes it up against his face, like, like a jerk reaction, like you're falling down, you want to grab something, but he expects like a wall or a ledge or something. Like he just so the lamp like flies into his face and it knocks him back on his feet. And his nose starts bleeding. So now he's got to go in and get a Band-Aid for the nose. And this entire this whole kind of comedy skit thing about like the injuries that go on. And he's a lawyer, so he's like, so the entire time as she's trying to help him, like, I can sue you for this, I can sue you for damage, I can sue you for like assault, I can sue you for negligence. Like it just keeps going on and on and on. And this is one of the things too, which I just find so funny. Is like Journal of the Survivor is by far one of my most dynamic books as well, not just in character development, but in pretty much everything. Hawker's memoirs and Hero of the First Islands, in my view, were very linear. On the light end of the spectrum is Hero of the First Islands, which can be there's really no dark moments, and it's a very lighthearted book. It's very family friendly. And there can be funny moments, there can be stuff like that, and like action moments and stuff like that. The comedy is very family oriented. It's not very dark or cynical, and it's it's kind of like silly humor, like random silly humor, like the kind of stuff you'd expect in a kid's book. On the darker end of the spectrum is the Hawker's Memoirs. Hawker's Memoirs is this extremely dark, extremely gloomy, unbelievably cynical, dark, gloomy, gory, bloody environment. And those were the two separate feelings I was going on for both of these books. But you see, Journal of the Survivor can go either way. In these last couple of minutes, I'd like to talk about this. And if anyone would like to join me in my conversation, assuming you're not a spam caller, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, we are celebrating our 10th show anniversary special. Back to the topic at hand, which is once again currently free for all before we go into our final topic. Once again, it would be appreciated if there are no spam calls, even though it's nice that we got to a record high number of callers. I'd rather it happens on a kind of different scale, like all of the callers have, or most of the callers at least, have good connection and none of them are spam. I believe there was one guy named John or Jonathan or Johnny or something of the sort from Georgia who called in just now, who sounded, well, first of all, kept going off topic, and second of all, the connection was so unbelievably hard to hear. You would not believe it. Oh, actually, you would believe it. You were there. I'm not even sure if it picked up on the microphone. It's unbelievable. Like, every other word was synced out. I had to kick that person from the call, sadly, just because it was just impossible to hear. And I kept telling, like, can you please hang up? Can you please hang up? Call in later. Some people. But Johnny or Jonathan or whatever from Georgia, if you're listening, if you can get a better landline and a better connection, I would love to actually have your call so we can actually talk about something on the show. To any of the other spam callers who called in who either spammed random noises or pretended to be whatever, talk about whatever, like something that makes no sense whatsoever, to all of you, please stay as far away from my show as possible. But yeah, one of the things in this final minute that I loved about Journal of Survivor so much, it just provided this nice sense of both. It, on the one hand, had a very happy sort of main character. Like, Hannah Holloway is a very light-hearted person. She's a very nice, light-hearted, kind, warm person. And her moral compass, I mean, depending on who you talk to, At least it's very noble and righteous in its general feeling. And that's the thing too, because she doesn't fit in at all compared to the rest of the book. Like almost all of the other characters in this book and settings, like it can be very dark and can be very gloomy. It's you look at like the comedy, it's very cynical, it's very deep and dark. There's a lot of like insults going around. There's a lot of very dark, dramatic stuff going on. And that was kind of the point, to provide this kind of weird, not even a middle ground, just like two grounded thing, like what on one side and the other side, not quite a mix, both intertwined, which actually worked out surprisingly well. Anyways, we will be moving on to our final half hour, our final segment of the show, which is going to be history. More specifically, China. More specifically, the Qin Dynasty. I believe I already said that earlier, but still, just like to reiterate it. Again, we're going to be talking about the Qin Dynasty and the events surrounding it. But if anyone would like to call in and, you know, not spam and have good connection, the number is 719. Hello, we have a caller. Hello, caller. What's your name?
Hello, my name is Samantha.
Hello, we have Samantha calling in from Kirkland. I believe we've had Samantha's call come before. And that makes 20 calls this show. On our 10th show, we have had 20 calls. Congratulations, Samantha. You are our 20th caller on this one show alone.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, thank yourself. I cannot believe we reached 20 calls in a single show. That is pretty impressive. But anyways, Samantha, hopefully. I believe last time we spoke, you were violently ill. Are you feeling better now?
Yes, I'm okay now.
Well, that's good. We wouldn't want you to detriment your health in this show. Anyways, right now the topic is history, more specifically the Qin Dynasty of China. Now, Samantha, do you or do you not know of the odd circumstances surrounding the Qin Dynasty's rise and fall to power?
No, I don't.
Well, most people don't, so I don't blame. That's not your fault. That's the American education system. But anyways, the Qin Dynasty was the fourth dynasty of China, preceded by the Zhao or Zhou Dynasty, as I like to pronounce it, and preceded by the Han Dynasty, I believe it was. Yes, it was the Han Dynasty. Now, the dynasty prior to the Qin Dynasty, which was the Zhao Dynasty, lasted 794 years. I kid you not. It was the longest-lasting dynasty of China. But yes, the Zhao Dynasty lasted 794 years, from 1046 to 256 BCE. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was taken by the Qin Dynasty, which was lasted. Well, okay. Now again, the Zhao Dynasty lasted almost 800 years. Now, imagine a dynasty powerful enough to take over a dynasty that lasted for almost 800 years. How long do you think that dynasty lasted, Samantha? Just roughly.
I would say, I guess, 900 or, I don't know.
900, that's a fair assumption considering the power necessary. There was one emperor in that dynasty, and the dynasty was there for 15 years exactly, from 221 to 206 BCE. It's like it was there and gone in no time. And that just amazes me, because I'm going to give a bit of a backstory. The Shang Dynasty was an extremely tight-fisted dynasty, but China was not China as we know it, what is considered to be China, which started with the Zhai and the Shang Dynasty. It wasn't that powerful at the time. One of the surrounding kingdoms, which was the Zhao, which was much bigger at the time, I believe, was able to find the Shang and see what all the cool stuff they were doing, and was pretty easily able to take over. The thing is, though, the Zhao, they actually had a pretty tough time because the Shang fought really hard, and the Zhao, the people actually wanted the Zhao because the Shang were extremely tough and strict. The Zhao were much more easygoing. They were much less strict, and that's why so many more people wanted them. I mean, it was like a one-sided war. Like, other than like the military and the nobles themselves, pretty much everyone was okay with the Zhao dynasty taking over China. And again, this Zhao dynasty lasted nearly 800 years. And you can go fact check me on all this sort of stuff. And then you have the Qin dynasty. Now, the Qin dynasty, the Qin dynasty was like the Shang dynasty in terms of the fact that it was strict, except it was way stricter. I believe it was China's first extremely strong, extremely ruthless monarchy. Because the Qin dynasty ruled by emperor, not surprisingly, Qin Shi Huangdi, the first confirmed emperor of China, not necessarily first, but first confirmed emperor of China, who was the first and only emperor of the Qin dynasty, took over. He was the prince. He was a very smart prince from one of the surrounding smaller dynasties that was not considered to be one of the main ones. And the Zhao dynasty was pretty big. But the thing is, do you want to know why the Qin dynasty was able to take over an empire that was there for almost 800 years?
Yeah, why?
Well, in mere population, the Zhao was way bigger. The Zhao had better technology and better fighters. Well, yeah. And the Zhao also had the support of the people, which is also a big thing. Back when the Zhao was trying to go into the Shang territory kind of half-heartedly, the people were practically like, they were tearing the Shang apart, wanting the Zhao to take over. And the Zhao did take over. The Qin, the reason the Qin were so good was because the Qin, the dynasty back from wherever they were in their Qin dynasty, they had an extremely strong military. They forced pretty much everybody to go into their military, which is something that the Zhao did not do, or at least no, they did. It just not to the extreme that the Qin did. And instead of focusing on stuff like, I don't know, swords and staffs and this and that, the Qin, they used bow and arrow, but they used it en masse. So what they did was they just shot down their enemy from way far away. And that was the main thing that they did. They were best at long-range fighting. So by the time the Zhao got close enough to do any of the real damage, and again, the Qin with a massive and very well-trained military, better than the Zhao's, by the time it was able to happen, it was like most of them were already dead from the the arrow fire. And from some of the retellings, the arrows would come down like rain. The entire sky would be enveloped in arrows coming down and hitting you. I mean, how do you fight against something like that? Do you see my point?
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that their military leader, Qin Shi Huangdi, the first confirmed emperor of China, was also an extremely smart person. He was very smart. There were many attempts on his life from people in the Zhao dynasty, and even traitors from like other dynasties and his own dynasty. Not a single one. Didn't fall for a single one. I mean, I'm not sure why he died in the end. I think he died of old age or a disease or something, but it was just incredible. I mean, that's the equivalent of, in modern day society, that's the equivalent of North Korea taking over Asia. That's the modern day equivalent. North Korea alone. Okay, maybe not North Korea. The Korean peninsulas, North Korea and South Korea, taking over all of Asia, with Thailand, with India, with China, with Japan. Just the Korean peninsula with only North and South Korea taking over the rest of all of Asia.
Yeah.
So, my question to you, Samantha. Oh, looks like we have another caller coming in. Hello, oh, this is another one of the spam callers. Sorry about that. That was a spam caller, I think. 21 calls. Again, please, I recognize that a lot of these callers are spam callers. So please do not call in with spam. It would be much appreciated if you didn't. It's very annoying to me and to other listeners of the show. Hello.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2,
yeah, that's my point. Goodbye. And this is my point. Like, I'm going to have to boot everybody, including Samantha. And again, thank you for calling us in. I'm so sorry that this is happening. I'm just going to start booting this particular number every single time. And I'm going to work on blocking numbers as well. But anyways, my point is, if you if you were the Zhao dynasty, what would you have done? Why do you think they lost? Because think about it, they still had the support of the public. Why do you think they still lost?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's the power of the people.
There's absolutely no life in only 15 subject.
Well, okay, again, the thing about this is, again, I understand your point, but think about it. The population of the Zhao dynasty, okay, obviously the world was a lot less populated, back in the BCE era than it was in current times. But I'm actually looking up the current population of the Zhao dynasty, and here we go. Population of the, and it doesn't show population. Wonderful. Okay, here we go. Near the end of the Zhao dynasty, it had 38, yes, about 38 million people. 38 million people. That's a big number. But you look at the population of, I'm gonna look up Qin dynasty. I'm sure the population grew due to the fact that it was combined countries. But yeah, look at this. Population of the Qin dynasty alone, 20 million. And again, this was after being united, like a ton, and I mean a ton of people overall had died or moved after this war, to the point where almost half the country moved away. And this was China after combining with the Qin. So the Qin had to be way, way, way smaller than the Zhao. So do you think it was military strength alone that took it over, or do you think there was more to it?
It might have been both, actually, because the military, well, I think there's a little bit more to this, but the military also has a little bit of power.
They have more than a little bit. But what do you mean by more of this? Like, what more involvement do you think? Do you think the only, like, it was a takeover by power, or do you think there was more involved? And what specifically?
I think there was more involved. Maybe there was another group, I guess, that was involved in this, or the other way around. It might have just been the power that they had. But I think there's another.
So you think there was a third-party interference?
Yeah, there could have been, but I don't know the whole story.
Okay, so here's the thing. That was actually a very good assessment, because if you think about it, it makes no sense. But one thing the thing about Qin Shi Huangdi, again, a reminder to those of you who haven't been listening, it's the first emperor of China. The thing about Qin Shi Huangdi, which separated him from the leadership of the others, is Qin Shi Huangdi was ruthless, absolutely ruthless. If he decided you needed to be killed, there would be no second thought about it in his mind. And he only protected core points of his own dynasty. He literally, he pretty much led his own revolution into China and just fought tooth and nail and did everything other than going to the battle himself. And whereas the Zhao wanted to protect their people and wanted to be the good guys, the Qin didn't care. They just wanted to move in with their again much better trained and much more experienced military. They wanted to move in and take over territory. And that's one of the things that separates. That's one of the reasons Qin Shi Huangdi is also very famous. Again, because of his ruthlessness. There was this movie about, I believe it was a documentary about him. And I believe it was on History about Qin Shi Huangdi, about some of the stuff he did to make sure he was safe. He was pretty much China's Stalin. To those of you who don't know Stalin, he was, many people refer to him, including me, as partially smart, but mostly he was a paranoid freak. That's why he killed so many people. He didn't kill so many. It's not like Hitler, where Hitler, be it a terrible reason that was not at all valid, Hitler, he thought that the Jews and so on deserved to die, and that the Germans were superior. Stalin just he thought like everyone, of the 20 million people who he was responsible for killing, every last one of them posed some sort of a threat to him. And like Qin Shi Huangdi was pretty much the same way. It's the most important thing to Qin Shi Huangdi was winning that war and staying alive. It wasn't about the country's well-being, which is what the Zhao believes in, because the Zhao were very religious people. And I mean very religious people into very peaceful religions. And this was before Buddhism, by the way. At least I believe it was before Buddhism. Yeah, I believe it was before Buddhism and Taoism, Confucianism, which were like the Reformation, if you will, of peaceful beliefs. It was like they had gods of like their god, I believe, was heaven. I believe the Zhao god was heaven. And where if you were a good person, you served your emperor well, and your emperor served you well, you would all go up and be in heaven and with heaven. To them, heaven was not only God, but where you go if after you died, if you were good. And with a belief like that, it was kind of like one of those utopias, almost kind of. But it was closer to anything else at the time, to like almost a utopia compared to what everything else was. Whereas Qin Shi Huangdi, after he took power of the military and everything, he just went he just went nuts on them and fought just tooth and nail. And that's why he was able to take over what was China at the time. And my question to you, Samantha, is, do you think it was worth it? Do you think it was worth it to, yes, your name goes down in history forever, and the rest of your life is great, but at the expense of all those other people?
Well, if I had to do it, then
no. This is by choice. I mean, as far as you're concerned, you think like you are just completely brainwashed. You think that you are 100% right all the time about everything, and you think that this country will be better if you rule it. The thing is, are you willing to sacrifice just an unbelievable number of your own people in order to do so? Would you do it? Again, we're not looking at the facts. We're looking at what he saw. Would you do it in his shoes?
no, I wouldn't.
You would not do it, and I'd be inclined to agree. Like, I'd focus more on like we need to get our own. We need to get our own kind of field down, if you will, and then we will peacefully go to others to offer them. And this is my point. Like, you think people would learn from history, but I mean, I don't think history is ever going to stop repeating itself. I mean, I'm sure Qin Shi Huangdi wasn't the first. I'm sure there was like some Egyptian pharaoh or something like that, but let's just say Qin Shi Huangdi was one of the first. So let's say you got Qin Shi Huangdi, and then you got, of course, you have you have early modern history Europe, which was nothing but war. Literally like nothing but war during their early modern history. It was like war after war after war after war after alliance after alliance after war after alliance after war. And then, of course, we have the modern history with World War I, and then worse yet, World War II with like Stalin and Hitler. And then now we have Kim Jong-un. And my point is, will history ever stop repeating itself? Do you think it will ever stop repeating itself until like we all, I don't know, blow up in the sun or something? Unless something like that happens, do you think history will ever stop repeating itself, Samantha?
I think it really won't, because yeah, all this, it just keeps on adding up, I guess you can say.
What do you mean by adding up?
Like there's all different, like there's different stuff that's happening, like well, not not literally adding up, but it's going to happen.
Sorry, another spam call. But yeah, I see your point. I completely see your point. It's like some people just get so caught up in the detail, like the nitty-gritty details, that people will just start to lose sight of what it means to. People just got to boil it down. I mean, people are saying nowadays, like, oh, you're oversimplifying this, you're oversimplifying that. But oversimplification, it depends how oversimplified it is. I mean, you can boil it down however you want to, because obviously there are different circumstances and there are different ways that this happened. But you look at Kim Jong-un, you look at Qin Shi Huangdi. I'm drawing a lot of parallels. If you're looking at it from a purely dictator kind of viewpoint, I'm seeing a lot of general a lot of parallels. No. Sorry, parallels never cross. I'm seeing a lot of intercrossing. I'm seeing a lot of the same stupid thing going on. And this has been going on, I mean, forever probably. It's probably going to go on forever if people just don't look at history. But anyways, going back to the Qin. Sorry, I got a bit philosophical there. I got a bit I got a bit triggered, if you will. But anyways, going back to current events. We're going to talk actually the opposite of current events. I want to talk a bit more about the government and military. So the one interesting thing was, after the Qin took power, one of the reasons they didn't last too long was because they became bureaucratic. The military and government was very bureaucratic. And obviously there was still, they all still served the first emperor, but there was all kinds of different stuff changed. There were more taxes and languages and measurements and practice details. All these things just started to change at an unbelievable rate. And this was just, it was just so much. It just became so bureaucratic. And that just, it's just like, you think. I mean, if you're going to go through the unbelievable trouble of taking over the most powerful country that you border, I mean, dynasty. If you're going to go through the trouble of taking that over, aren't you going to at least try to come up with a good system of what do we do now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to come up with a really good plan first before you know it. You have to know what you're doing.
Right.
Get involved.
Like, as an example, I was studying well, not surprisingly, I was studying the history of America in history this year. In my view, every school should do that, but then again, America is evil according to pretty much everyone now. But you look at, like, the history, you look at George Washington as an example. You look at George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson, and the rest of them, everyone who was around at the time, and who actively worked on helping set up the country. Do you know who all these people were? These were experienced generals, military men, people who came and were from all other kinds of nations, who knew all about other cultures, what worked, what didn't. They all came together and they spent hours and days just violently thinking and debating and coming up with fair rules and coming up with a good system, checks and balances, popular sovereignty, federalism, republicanism, democracy, the electoral college. They came up with all these different things. And they spent time developing it, because even though they were fighting for their independence, unlike Qin Shi Huangdi, they were actually thinking more than one step ahead. They were thinking, what do we do with the country if we win? And Qin Shi Huangdi was like, do this. Okay, bureaucracy, great. That gives us some time. Let's replace all the religion, all the government and military, all the philosophy, all the literature, all the architecture, replace everything in no time. And China, sorry, what?
I just said yeah.
And China just became like, I mean, he was a brilliant military leader, but he was an idiot as far as it came to how to put a country together. And by the time he was able to sort through everything, he was on the end of his life. And then the Han decided, like, well, you know, the Han dynasty, which was the following dynasty, they decided, like, I mean, they're not doing too great, and we're not doing too bad. And by the way, just to be clear here, I want this to be clear. I'm not making a mistake, because many people say I'm making this mistake. Many people will probably say that I screwed up in saying that the Qin dynasty was the fourth dynasty of China, whereas many people think it's the first. No, Qin was the first imperial dynasty. I want that to be completely clear in case anyone asks. The first dynasty was Zhai. The first imperial was Qin, because I know someone's going to get triggered about that. I remember I was talking about a movie at one point on the show. I believe it was, I want to say it was the Lego movie. And because I screwed up a name, I think I mixed up Jailbreak from the Emoji Movie with Wild Style. Someone just got so triggered, even though my point still stood perfectly valid. That was like their equivalent of like shutting down my point. So, I mean, you know, good for them, I guess. But anyways, the first emperor of the Han Dynasty was Emperor Gao Han. And he was the one who, well, he's the one who he started on like a humble level, like a peasant level, and he just slowly started rising to power in his small dynasty. And he saw that Qin was doing horribly and decided, let's take over. Do you know the terracotta soldiers, Samantha?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what you know about them, other than the fact that they're terracotta and that they're Chinese. What do you know about them? Anything?
Well, okay. I know, they're the armies, from the first emperor of China, but they weren't the first, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it was that emperor.
But
No, sorry, you finish.
I don't really know too much, but I mean, they're like basically the army of the first emperor of China.
Well, again, the first confirmed emperor. There were like many people thought that there were emperors going all the way back to the Zhai dynasty, but there are all kinds of holes in that theory. So the first confirmed emperor is Qin Shi Huangdi. You're right about that. And all those terracotta soldiers, which I believe number over 7,000, they were all made in that 15-year span. And that's just and like they made the emperor himself. They made him like absolutely massive. They made him like I forget the exact number. I'm gonna actually look this up. Sorry, what?
There's like when they were discovered, which I don't know, like was a while ago. There were like a lot of the terracotta figures. There were like 6,000 of them.
Yeah, it was only discovered 1974. Oh, more than 8,000. It was more than 8,000. And again, this wasn't made over some vast period of time. It was made in like 15 years, which is just ridiculous. And the emperor himself is massive. Like I'm not sure. I'm trying to find his exact height right now. Or I'm not the man himself, but the height of the statue, because I know they made it way taller than he actually was. But it's just ridiculous to me how they can. Okay, wait. His tomb is 1 mile long. His tomb. And like, why would you spend so much time on a just developing nation? Why would you spend so much time? You're such a brilliant person who took over the country by like revolutionizing the fighting in practically the entire country, and then that's all you do. That's really it. I mean, that's like all you know how to do. Like you should plan ahead a little bit. If you think you are what's right for this country, like you can do it. You will be the best leader. You will live out a happy life, and so on and so on. wouldn't you actually plan for your country a little bit? No, he decided just because he thinks he's pretty attractive and his soldiers are pretty cool, let's make over 8,000 statues of him. And that's just insane to me. That's just completely insane. And in my view, we gotta stop repeating the ways of Qin Shi Huangdi and the Qin dynasty and focus on actually getting some good countries in here. Anyways, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this Ben Moskalensky show. Samantha, thank you so much for joining me. We got a grand total of 27 calls this show, which is over 9 times our previous record. Trust me, I'm surprised too. Anyways, thank you everybody so much for joining me. This is our 10th show special. Everyone have a great day. Thank you. Goodbye.